Determine the height of a triangle. So you have XYZ, triangle XYZ, and let's say, for instance, you get a triangle like this. Six 6.48, and this is 29. Okay, so the attendance will be fairly simple. I just need to figure out the one student that isn't here today. I think I know now. Yeah. Yeah, no, Kamalpreet, are you there? Kamalpreet, no? All right. So if you were given a triangle like this, right? You know you have two angles, right? So this is the angle side angle scenario. And at first glance, right, like it's the hidden pair, we don't know quite yet. We don't have enough information to even have a pair, right? So we'll just make a note that this is ASA, okay? We're gonna find angle Y here. That's gonna be our first order of business. And then we're slowly gonna inch our way towards finding the height of this triangle. So we subtract the angles like so, and you get 105. Okay. And so now we know this angle right here, hence giving us a pair. Okay. So I'm not going to do the circling here because my height is going to go right here. Okay. This is the height of the triangle in this case. This would be the base. So right now I'm not focusing on the height just yet because in order for you to be able to get to the height, you will have to know at least one more side length, okay? Because we know the whole base here is 6.48. You would either have to find this side here between x and y, or the side between y and z to then be able to focus on the height. So the first order of business is for me to just stick with the big triangle. Okay. So find xy or yz next. Okay. Before you can do anything else. And in my notes, I'm finding xy. So we're just going to stick with that, right? I choose xy. Okay. So here we go with our pair, sine of 105 degrees over 6.48. Remember, this chapter says acute triangle trigonometry. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to make it, it works the same way. There's just one instance where there's a problem, which we will get to later on, way down the road, after the test most likely. So there'll be a second part to this trig. And so this part over here, the proportion on this side, since I want to find xy or side z as well, if you want to call it that, then I would have to use sine of 29 over, let's call this lowercase z, why not, right? It's easier that way. And so we cross multiply. So z is equal to 6.48 times sine of 29. And you might ask yourself, why do you always take the number? Does it matter which order? Well, historically speaking, right, based on past experiences, this gives you less of a chance of making a mistake. Like for whatever reason, if you don't close this bracket and the 6.48 is on this side, right, there's less of a likelihood of you making a mistake. So that's why I do that. There. So please don't set up and then put equals and then this whole thing, okay? This is your first proportion. You set this up and then you rewrite it either below or beside. It's up to you, but don't just have a bunch of equal signs until you get the final answer, okay? Here you can say z is equal to this, which is also equal to a value, a number, right? So let's go ahead and find that. 6.48 sine of 29 over sine of 105. 3.25 inches. Okay. So now you have everything in red is what I found out, right? So now we know that this is 3.25. Okay. I found out what that is. So the 105, I figured out that's the whole angle Y here. Okay. And then 3.25 is this side here. And now because I chose this side, I'm going to cut out that right triangle that results on the left side. So triangle XY, whatever you want to call this here, right? You could call this A, right? XYA. But I'm going to cut this one out here on the left side. Now cut out a right triangle. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Right, this is the height. This is 3.25. This is 46. And this is 90. Okay. So technically now, with this triangle, you could use the primary trig ratios if you remember how to do that. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to stick with sine law here to not make any mistakes. You have a pair here, right? sine of 90 over 3.25 is equal to, you have 46 here in this case, but let's say just for, because I can't cover all, I can't give an example of every scenario, but let's say the 46 was up here, you could have easily found out what this angle is, right? Sum of triangles 180, right? To get that. But in this case, it's already across the height. So we're going to go sine of 46 over height. And then we're doing the same thing again. Height is going to be multiplying here. And before we compute this, everybody just do this for so that it sticks in your memory, okay? Type in sine of 90. Okay, take your calculator and go sine of 90, hit equal, you should get 1. Okay, so technically it's 3.25 times sine of 46 divided by 1. So sine of 90 is a bit irrelevant, but it's like a placeholder, so you know, right? It's still always cross multiply and divide. I'm just saying that because sometimes students hit enter after doing this and then divide by sine of 90 and nothing happens. It's because you're dividing by 1. Okay, let's go ahead and find out what that is. 2.38. No, sorry, 2.34. My bad. Inches. Now you found the height of this triangle. So if I were to ask you now, find, or let's say at the very beginning, I would have asked you to find the area of that triangle. You would have had to go through all of this, right, to find the height and then find the area. Okay, so that's how that goes. And I think I'm just gonna, well, we'll find the area actually. It's not that much work. Area of the triangle would be 6.48. Now we're going back to the top here. 6.48 is the base, 2.34 is the height, and we divide all of that by 2. And that gives you 7.58 squared inches. This is just an extension of what we've done, okay? So I'll put this in a box here. Calculate the area of triangle XYZ. Okay, so before we start word problems, I'm going to ask you to work on the section 3.2 review, and I'll show you what that handout looks like. I've also posted it just a little while ago. So sorry if I'm blocking you and you're copying it. I'm going to remove it. Find this worksheet right here. Okay. And I'm not too worried about you identifying the type of triangle. I think what I would want is for you to always think and ask yourself, do I have a pair? Am I able to solve this on the sine law Of course, they're all sine law right now, but soon it won't, right? So just thinking about that eventuality, okay? So work on that handout for a little bit. The last one, D, says to solve the triangle. That means solving for all sides and all angles, okay? So D is going to take you a little longer, but you should be able to do that at this point, okay? All right. The answers, okay? So for 1A, I mean, just write down sun, right? It doesn't matter if you go clockwise, counterclockwise, just put the variables in the right spot, and it will match up, and you see that there's a pair. This is an angle side situation. Side angle if you'd like to call it that way. It's okay. It's the letters, right, that we go by, that there's two angles on a side. And so we set up our proportion, we solve, we have one more step where we actually do the calculations, and then we have our answer with units. Okay, so that's that. And I'm just checking across from 72 should be larger than across 38, so I'm good. Next I have PQR. It's again angle side, right? If you go this way, if you go the other way, it's side angle. And what we have here is that it's very similar to A, and you set it up, you do the calculation, you come up with 12.75. So these were all like A and B as well as C, they were all straight to the point. There wasn't a two-step in here, but you have to be prepared for the two-step questions, right? For C, you're asked to find the angle. So notice that it was always convenient that they give you the side to find M, you just go solve it. But this could have easily been a question where it says solve for A, right? And then you draw your triangle and you're like, well, wait a minute, I can't do it. Well, it's just you have to solve for M, then find A, right? And so forth. Or it could have been find side A over here. You're essentially solving the triangle if I were to ask you for that, okay? Anyway, so you set it up here too. You have your pair, right, across. Make sure angles stay on top if that's how you want to go, right? And sine M is like this. I know I'm going to have to take the inverse, so I already say that angle M is going to be sine inverse of whatever I get here, so you can shorten the steps a little bit. I'm fine with that. And practice will really hone that skill of showing your work, okay? If you're not practicing, if you're just like kind of doing that on the side, you might lose marks because you're not showing your steps properly, okay? Rounding, using all decimals, all that kind of those little things, you need to kind of have that figured out, okay? And then D, it's asking us to solve the triangle. So you end up with, you start with this, you have a pair. It's again angle side scenario. You have a pair, we're going to set out to solve the triangle, right? So the first thing that you can do is, given that you have that second angle, you can find side T, which is right across from it, right? So this would be T and this would be lowercase a. So I set out to find side T. Then I'm going to find side A, but before I do so, I'm going to have to subtract these two from 180 and get 67 for angle A, right? Using the pair I started off with at the beginning here, I use that pair again, but now I'm using sine of 67, which is the angle of A, to find side A. You do your calculations, you get that. So now you have all three sides and all three angles. I should probably box this in because it's part of my solution, right? You need three things to get you started, so you have to find three more things to solve the triangle. That's basically how it is. The only case where you cannot do anything is if you're only given three angles. Like let's say I give you all three angles of that triangle. There's no way, be it cosine law or sine law, you couldn't do anything with it. Okay. There's nothing. You need at least one side to get you started. All all three sides, that's a different story. We're going to talk about that later. Okay. All right. So put this away. It's part of the recording. And we're going to move on with word problems. All right. I think I'm going to start a new recording because I want the word problems to be separate.